Welcome to the Mop Wanna Read Show. I believe we can always start again and do something new in our lives, and that one decision can make a massive change. I'm creating a world where we go after our dreams instead of holding ourselves back and pursue what we love. I'm here to shine a light so that other women and men, if they're listening, know it is possible. Through my podcast, I bring this to life by sharing what I like to call the job, J-O-B, Journey on Becoming, so all of my listeners can really see what is possible for them as well. Join me as we explore inspiring stories of transformation and the incredible journeys of those who have taken bold steps to follow their passions. Together, let's discover the power of starting anew and the limitless potential within us all. Welcome to the Mop Wanna Read Show. Today we have my friend Shan Otare, who has an amazing story. And the first time I heard it, it was like years ago, and I was just like so inspired by all the things that she has done. And I always thought to myself, like, I want her to share her story and then she ended up writing a book, which is super wonderful and all that good stuff. But she was a teen mom living in Section 8 housing and now is a multi-millionaire owning multiple properties here in Hawaii, which is just so amazing. And she is about to share with us her job, her journey on becoming. Welcome to the show, Shan.
It's so amazing, right?
It is, girl. It is. It really is.
Thank you for having me. It's funny because like it's just my life, right? And so I don't want to say just my life, but it's my life and I'm living it every day, right? And so to hear someone out loud speak it back to you or just to speak it out loud, it's like, oh my God, I did. Oh wow, I did just, I forget because I obviously I remember because I'm living it, but I just, sometimes you forget like the scale because when I look at it, I was just doing me. I was just doing the journey. I was just figuring things out. And, hindsight 2020 is freaking so clear, right? And so you look back, you're like, wow, that stuff really did happen. So I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you feel proud of yourself? Like when someone else tells it back to you, do you think like, wow, I did that? Yeah, I've overcome a lot.
I really do. I would say in this part of my life, I really do because there was in the beginning when you're younger, and I feel like this just is something to do with immaturity and not really getting to know yourself or loving yourself. I would get really embarrassed by when people would just talk about me, period. Right? Even though I knew, I was like, I'm good at what I do, and I want to help people, and like I'm a good person, right? And I have these thoughts, but I feel like the way I was brought up was just like, be humble. Don't talk about yourself. Don't be hamakamaka, as we say here in Hawaii. Don't be that
Mhm.
way. But I always had this innate confidence in me that I was able to accomplish the things that I have. And so the way my life started, that's where that confidence. I really feel that even though my life started the way it did, that little seed, little dust piece of confidence is really what carried me through for sure.
Yeah, yeah. When you said like don't talk about yourself and stuff like that, like sometimes I feel like it's like a double-edged sword. It goes both ways. Sometimes you're like, okay, you don't want to like brag and talk about yourself, but sometimes you still have to give yourself credit, like yeah,
I agree, and I think women specifically, like
exactly.
just the way the world has been for centuries, that we do tone ourselves down. We do kind of make ourselves a little smaller, and I understand, why that is. Do I agree? I don't agree with it, but I just understand why it is and how it is, and so understanding that I can approach it in a way where I can still try and be myself, but really kind of, how do you say, in the way I'm thinking in my head is freaking flip the bird, I feel like, yeah, I understand you, but I don't get it. So F you, I'm just going to be me. And that's really how I think kind of, I internally approach things. Externally, I'm very good with people, but like, I'm never going to flip the bird to people. That's not my style, but in my head, I am. You know how Beyonce has her stage, Sasha Fierce has her stage presence,
Yes.
yeah, her alter ego. I feel like my alter ego is a bad bitch like that, but she stays
Oh
in.
yeah, girl. I think everybody needs to have an alter ego, like the version of yourself that is just so fearless, that just does
Yes,
whatever, like living the best life and not caring. Yeah.
yes, and I feel like I don't know how to put it into words, but like I feel like my alter ego has becoming more my reality as I've gotten older.
Oh,
Um,
yes,
so,
girl, bring
well,
it.
that could just be something that came with maturity too. So I've been trying to give her a name. I haven't figured it out yet, but like I kind of want to give her a name because she's freaking fierce.
Oh, yeah, girl, give her a name. Give her a name. And then so there's no, seriously, you gotta give her a name.
I know.
I took this coaching class once and they explained about giving yourself your alter ego and giving yourself a name. And then when you're not feeling it, like basically calling yourself out and
Yeah,
be
yes.
like, come on, girl. Like you gotta do the double clap and be like, whatever, Sasha Fierce, whatever, like, let's go. It's time to roll. Okay, come on.
That's literally the reason I want to give her a name. I want to be able to like,
Call her in.
call out to her because sometimes I feel like she needs to scream to come out because like I feel the need, but I'm not. She's not there. So maybe we'll make a poll on what Shan's alter ego name should be.
Yes. Yes. You gotta give yourself two names. You gotta give your old self a name, like something like I don't know, Gretchen or something like a
Former Shan. Okay, like the
Shan, yeah.
was okay.
And
Right.
then give yourself a new name, you know? So yeah, you gotta give yourself two names. Capetta's gonna be like, how many people are in there, girl? We got this person. Where did Shan go? Okay.
Oh,
So
man.
I just wanna ask you a couple questions, but
Yeah, sure.
looking back on your journey, what was the most pivotal moment as a teen that shaped your path to becoming a multimillionaire? Was there a moment that you were like, this is not gonna be my story?
Yes. Yeah, I was actually still pregnant. I thought it would come. There's a few there's a few moments after I had my kids where I definitely kept on feeling that, like it kept on returning to me that thought like this is not it. This is not it. I was
Mhm.
saying to myself, but I would say that it was pretty much when I found out I was pregnant. It was 3 weeks after I had just been accepted to colleges on the East Coast and I in my mind was ready to go. I was going to be a doctor or an attorney. I didn't know what yet, but it was one of those things, and I had planned to be there and go there. And this is in my senior year, and I find out 3 weeks later that I'm pregnant.
Mhm.
And immediately my type A personality kicks in. I'm like, well, I could still live in Boston. I could still raise the two kids. I'll get babysitters and I'll still be able to go to school full time. Like that's just how that kicked in for me. But what I think happened was reality set in right before I was about to give birth in like July of 1997. I gave birth in
Two
August.
twins.
So we're twins, right? Oh yeah, not only are you a teen mom by a boy 2 years younger than you who's 15. In a way, it's twins, right? And yes, so that whole thing. Yes, that's right. It's twins. But again, my head is just like I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. And I was like freaking 60 weeks pregnant, feeling like I was 60 weeks pregnant. And I just hit this wall. And I'm like, wow, you're not going to Boston. You are not doing this. It's just not going to happen. And I was really sad about it. But like I said, that little seed of confidence just kind of kicked in. I didn't need a lot of it. I just needed a little bit of it. And that
Mhm.
little bit is what kind of got me over, okay, well, you're not going to go there. Well, check out the local community college. What do they got? What do they have for you? And when I went there, I was sad because my heart and my mind were in Boston. We were on the East Coast. We were going to do something else. And here I am looking at this Hawaii Community College catalog of classes. I'm like, oh, that's not interesting. This is not interesting. And really, in the end, none of it was interesting. But the practical choice to me was culinary school. So I went to culinary school, which ended up being a wonderful journey. I really enjoyed it. And in the end, I was like, at least I'll be able to cook, you know? So I just
At
wonder,
least I can feed my kids.
at least I can minimally, right? On the minimum. And I'm a pragmatist. Like whatever's practical, I'm very much like that. And so even the way I dress, even a lot of my things, it's very practical based. So I really feel like that shaped my path on becoming a millionaire because what happened was when I got into college, I went to go register and I went to apply and the lady who was helping me, she was like, oh, so how are you going to pay? And it was shocked me. Like I didn't enroll that you're supposed to, I mean, I knew you're supposed to pay for college, but I didn't know I was supposed to pay for college. Like me, I'm supposed to do that? She's like, you have like a credit card or savings? I was like, no, auntie, no, I don't know what I'm going to do. She's like, because I had my twins with me, right? They were in their double stroller and they're like, I don't know, less than 6 months old. She's like, oh, you know what, baby, come to my office, during these 3 days this week and I'm going to show you how to apply for scholarships. I'm like, okay, Auntie. So I drove up 3 days that week, and she spent a couple hours with me while the girls were napping, showing me how to apply for scholarships. She said, you want you want one scholarship, you got to apply for 10. You want 6 scholarships, you got to apply for 50. And this is back when it was like all handwritten. FAFSA was handwritten. You have to mail everything and in. And so I did it, and I got about $30,000 in scholarships back then. This is in
Wow.
1997. School only cost it's community college. The whole year maybe cost like $6,000, including all my chef's uniforms and knives and all that stuff. Like it was like $6,000. So
Did
that
you feel when you got approved for that money? Because I
uh,
remember when I got mine when I was in college, but didn't you feel like, oh my gosh, we are rich?
and this is what, but then the pragmatist in Kate comes back, because I see these checks coming in, and basically that was the first time I was receiving money that said like over 10,000. It
Yeah.
was crazy for me, but I was like, what do I do with it? But like I said, the pragmatist kicked in, and it was like, well, um, the truth teller in me also knows that I'm on welfare, and they're going to do a 6-month recertification, and I will have made too much money, which is exactly what happened. I got kicked. I no longer was able to qualify for welfare, which is great, because that was my internal goal, was to not be on it for more than a year. And it was like 11 months when everything rolled around and I got kicked off. So I knew that with that money, I had to pay for school, but also live my life. So I did the envelope system, and I separated all the money, and each month I would take out a new envelope, and that is what I lived off of. Fortunately, we were living in Section 8 housing, so my rent was like $174. And so I feel like this put me on the path to being a millionaire, because the struggle forced me to look at what was around me and what resources I had. In 2017, Capena and I did a conference with Tony Robbins, a live conference. We bought VIP tickets. We just went open hearted, and just we walked the fire. That we walked over the cold. The first night it was kind of crazy, but that weekend really opened us up. And one of the biggest things I took away from that weekend was, he said, um, that building wealth, or basically having resources, is not the answer. It's your resourcefulness that will make you wealthy, not your resources.
Oh
This
my
is
God.
why you see people who
Such
have
good advice.
Yes, exactly. They have nothing, but because they're resourceful and they can utilize the things around them to not only work in their benefit but to move forward. That is the little muscle you need to build in order to to really truly build wealth. You don't
But
have
like what you said, the little seed that you had, you've always had that in you. I think maybe when someone told it back to you, it's like, oh yeah, it's like you had that little seed in you, of like, this is not it. I'm not gonna go. So what can I do?
exactly. So when he said that, it wasn't new to me as in, oh, what a concept. It was new to me as in, frick, that's what I've been doing. It was
Exactly.
like, that's when that confidence, that little seed of confidence became like a fruit. And now the tree's coming up. Like I really felt like it really grew, because I was like, I've been freaking doing this all along. And so just to have the validation, I guess is the word, the validation that I've been doing it, and not only have I been doing it, at that point I had some success, but like not to where we are today. But I had enough proof in my rearview mirror to show me that, like, hey, not only are you on one path, like, you got the thing that you need to do. And I think Marie Forleo says it best. Everything is figure outable, and
Mhm.
that's how I feel about a lot of things in life. Like, I don't know a lot of things, um, but I have a lot of resources, and I am not scared to engage them, or to
Mhm.
engage it,
Mhm.
whatever they are. And
Girl,
that
YouTube University.
is
We're figuring it out. We got YouTube University.
like, I'm the expert in it. It's kind of crazy, right? And that's really where I think a lot of the wealth has been, because not only do I have that little bit of confidence, I am super resourceful, but now I realize that what is that word? I just had it as I was speaking the sentence. I'm the expert, but my biggest thing that I feel is one of my favorite aspects of myself is I'm so curious about life, about people, about random things. Like, it's off putting for my husband. He was like, "You just don't ever stop. Like, is it really that important?" I was like, "It's not important, but I just want to know." Like that
It's so
curiosity.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and whether or not it's going to affect my life ever, I still want to know. It's just like, I can't describe it besides just insatiable. It is this hunger for not even more knowledge, just like curiosity, just interest in everything. And I think where my kind of specialty has flowed over is that curiosity really, really shows when I deal with people. I feel like it not only makes people feel comfortable with me. I'm not trying to do it. I am innately curious about you, and we talked about this last time where you know I'll know everything but your social security number if I'm standing in line with you in a Costco, a long line at Costco. By the time we get to the register, no, I know all these.
And
My husband's like, why do you know all those things about them? And I don't know. And I realized I listened to myself a few times as I was talking to someone, and I realized how all my responses to these people were always just questions of curiosity, never just like talking more about myself. It was more questions about them. And so, I mean, I don't know what they walk away knowing about me, but I know a shit ton about them. Yeah, so that's I think those things, the curiosity, the resourcefulness, and that little bit of confidence was part like the trifecta that has really helped it to grow
it's
into,
your mindset and your motivation, girl.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
It's also
Girl.
grown too. The mindset has grown too. But yeah, those three things I think are really the core.
What helped you with your mindset? Was there anything? I know you said that you attended a Tony Robbins event, but
Yeah.
if someone's listening to this, like what advice would you give them, like for mindset, and any
So
books you recommend or?
yeah, so many books. I keep them all. I'm looking at my geodome right now. Like I keep all my favorite books in my side of my Airbnb. Is like, you guys should read this because you want to live this life. Read what I read. A subtle way of telling my guests, like, hey, because they all say how much they love it. Right? I was like, it can be yours too. Just read the books. I'm just looking at what I have. I'm sitting right here. First and foremost, of course, Evicted at 8, my book. But one of my more recent, really favorite books since the pandemic has been Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I'm not sure if
Oh
you've read
yeah.
it.
No, I did. Yeah.
I read
It's
it.
so good. It's so good. And it's so good how he talks about how he even took a break.
Yes. And
You know, he decided he wanted to change his identity basically. So he took a break with no money, with no paycheck coming in because he didn't want to play all these roles. It was so good.
he's
Yeah.
really is good. And so I read the book and then I listened to it as an audiobook. And oh my God, he does the audiobook and it is just chef's kiss because I mean he's an actor, right? So he's got the talent. It is my last 5 years one of my top favorites. The other one that I always go back to is the Four Agreements. The Four
I need
Agreements.
to read that one. Everyone keeps
Oh,
recommending
it's
that
so
one.
short. It's so short. You have
I
to read
know.
it.
Okay,
The
I'll
Four
go pick it up today.
one. What was another one? If we're talking about the area that I got into, Rich Dad Poor Dad, for real
Mhm.
estate, that was actually very very uh, life altering for me. And it
Mhm.
wasn't because he was a Hilo boy that I felt connected to. His
Mhm.
style of writing was very similar to mine, in that you feel like you're talking to that person. It's not like a textbook style cadence of writing. It's very talk starry type, and so like I could get it.
Mm.
He was dropping new things on me that I just never heard before, and new concepts like don't spend more than you make. What?
You're like, "What?"
Credit cards are not your wealth? Oh my God. Wow. What a concept. And he really just simplified it in a way to where I was like, that's so doable. And
Yeah.
so we followed that even before there was like all these courses and everything. And I really feel like that was in the industry we're in real estate. That was definitely a real not only page turner, but thing that turned us around as far as moving us along. But as far
Mm.
as mindset, I would say I read all the books, I attend all the seminars, I follow all the pages, I see all the things, and it's still the algorithm knows that mindset things is very much something that I'm interested in. But another thing that I am is I'm a very keen observer. And this kind of goes into what we were going to talk about regarding some of the challenges we had, because one of my biggest things is because I'm an observer, I am always looking at things and see, do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I want more? Like that's how I look at it. It's just those three things, right? And that's how I remember thinking that way as a kid. And because of that, I saw the way my parents dealt with me, and I was like, I don't want more. Like I want less of this, right? And I saw the way people interacted. I was like, oh, I want more of that. And so because of that, I really kind of synthesized it into what's become who I am, my parenting style. my relationship style. And I will say that that one is one that I still struggle with refining at. And I definitely know, I mean, as long as I've been married, Penn and I are together like 28 years already. It's like, it's still something that we're refining. And sometimes it feels like it's just like pulling teeth. And sometimes it's in such a flow. And I realize that is the ebb and flow of marriage, right? We're not only together and very familiar, but we're also evolving and changing as people. And so, and then we have to kind of regroup and be like, do we like these people we've become, and then do we like each other as a relationship? And so it's always this returning and reevaluating that that I feel has really grown my mindset, and just understanding that I will always be changing, the world around me will always be changing, Capenna will always be changing. How do I be empathetic or sympathetic to all these things so that they can still be in my life, or so that I need to dismiss them from my life? Not saying that about Capenna, but just things and people, you know. And so I feel like I'm always under this gentle guise of evaluation, and I feel like
Mm.
that has really brought me my peace, because I'm not just allowing things in anymore and having things just kind of decided for me. I really am navigating, you know, I'm navigating through this world as opposed to floating. You know,
Mm.
so I feel like that has really changed my mindset, because I realized how um, being closed minded, and being scared and being nervous and having anxiety about all those things. Like, I understand those are real feelings and emotions, but they also very much strap me down and keep me in place. And I just don't have the energy. I am not the energy. My soul's energy is not something that can be kept in place. Like, it just has to keep going. Not even for the world, just for me to have, you know, my daily happiness. So, so yeah, that's definitely something that I think about when I think about mindset, is
That
constantly.
is such great advice, though, that you are the navigator of your life. Girl, our people was navigators on the ocean. You gotta be navigator on the land too.
It's in our blood. It's in our now. We feel it, but we've just been colonized so heavily that
Oh, big
it's
time.
really erased it in a lot of ways, you know. And it's very sad. And I can take my moment to give the sadness to it that it deserves, because it really is, you know, for our people. But um, I can't cry over something. I can't keep crying about it. I can change it with myself. I can start by changing it with myself, right? And hopefully, the way I am, or the things that I do, or the services that I provide, will help permeate that through the people that I touch through those things, and then that can become more the norm, and we can erase that feeling of like we're not good enough, or you know, we
Or
don't
I
know.
don't deserve this.
Yes, or we don't know how to navigate our own life. I need to be told no, no, no.
You need to just listen to your now and just,
Yeah.
and follow that.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that shirt that it says the time is now.
I love that.
Like, every time I see that shirt, I was like, yes, the time is now. But it's so good.
Yeah, it is so good. Oh man. So when you were going through all of this, were there key people that had helped you and supported you along the way? I know you mentioned that the woman at the
Yeah,
community college had really helped you and kind of guided you and showed you how. But
right.
was there any other, did you have any other people in your life who had guided you or helped you or
Yeah, for sure. There's been those people all along the way, and I think recognizing them and keeping that close relationship with them has been really important. But on the same hand, um, the people who have not served me well, I kind of hold close to, as like a mahalo for letting me know what shitty people are like. You know, as to how to avoid them. You know,
it's like, thank you.
you like thank you, bye. You know, and really like, and I say that in all seriousness, because it's part of that learning process about, you know, these people who help you grow, um, and are doing it for you, versus those people are helping you grow, or trying to help you grow for their benefit, is a completely different vibe, you know. But in the beginning, both those things feel the same. It's when you get deeper into the relationship and you start to learn people, you start to get to know each other better, and then that's when the feelings start to come a little oogy, where it's like, oh, I'm starting to see what you're doing to me. Like, I'm feeling taken advantage of. Oh, I am being taken advantage of. And then, like, how do I even get out? Because it's like a noose around my neck, you know.
Mhm.
And so it that is something that I've definitely learned. But for the people who definitely have helped me, it's funny because I did a little reel on this on my page on my birthday a couple weeks ago. Um, thanking just I was happy to I turned 45 and it was a milestone age for me and I explained why the number 45 while was the milestone and my friends Corinne and Jay were just like really what they were just themselves and I think that's what I needed to see regular people, ordinary people doing extraordinary things with their lives, but still looking and acting like ordinary people. That's what I needed to see, to know, like, because I never felt like I was scared to build wealth. I was scared to have money because of the perception that I was worried people would have of me, of what is usually accompanied with the wealthy, right? Oh, they are this way. They're bitches. They're high maka maka, however they did. And I know that because I used to think that, about that when I was very poor. So I very much know how people are thinking about the people who have wealthy. I get it because I used to be you. And so I'm aware of that. But what I found when I met them was them just being ordinary and sharing these pockets of their lives that were not to show off at all. Just like, oh yeah, that's our house over there. Oh, that's another rental over there. We're planning on opening a business there. And we were like in our late 20s, we were like, what? Who are these people? Like, what? Because they're so regular. And they became the model for like the regular wealthy person that I wanted to read and I mean to be. And I think that was 2009. 2 years later, actually the year later, Kapena and I took a vacation to Bora Bora. Kapena's from Tahiti, and we always stay on the main island. But I was like, we need to go to the outer islands because they're just so much more beautiful. And as much as we love family, we are also on vacation from like work and everything. How do we just like just really disconnect? So we went to Bora Bora and we got our friends got us a place on Matira Bay, and I read this book called The Millionaire Next Door. That's another book, a good one to read. And that one had a lot of facts. It wasn't like really nicely written in the way it was really written more textbook, but the facts that they were dropping in there, it was like back then. This is like 2010. Like the average millionaire drives a Ford Taurus. It was like those type of facts that were being dropped in that book, and I was like, "That's me. That's me." Like all those things, and I really felt.
Girl, it's like when you said, "Don't spend more than you make." What?
Exactly. And when I saw that, I was like, they drive a Taurus? They live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They don't live in a big mansion on the hill. I was like, holy shit, like I actually can be a millionaire. So it's almost like I was giving myself this internal permission to like go towards that. And Jay and Kareen were just these, in all the embodiment in front of my face with all the love, showing me what that looked like. And it just felt so attainable in that weekend that I talked about on that reel. And I just continue to always hold that close to me and try to live my life in the way that that feels the most real and is kind of ordinary, because we still do some Gil things till today. Like I'll return the same shed of sheets over and over and over again if it gets a stain at Costco because their policy allows me to. I'm taking new money to that. I'm going to keep recycling the money I've been buying and returning. The same box I've been using like for years to get new sheets. So the kids are still alive and well. But in practical things. So
Yeah.
so like to me, like that's the sense of ordinary that I keep for myself to not only keep me grounded, but to remember that that's really who I am. My bank account just looks different, and that's really where things got clear for me. And
Your
that's
bank account and your mindset. Same girl, just different bank account, and just a different mindset.
and that's what those two things really did. Those things really did change the way that I approached everything in life. And so, like Jay and Kareen would be one. It's so funny because for so many years I hated my dad. And I say that now because he knows that, because I would say it to him. But
Yeah, but I guess if he is listening, but he already knows that part.
he knows. But what's interesting is like him and I probably have the closest relationship with all of my siblings. And they've always said that I'm the favorite, and that's never bothered me because I know there's been a closeness, and I didn't ask for it to be that way. It's just kind of the way it evolved. But I really hated him because I felt like at a really opportune time for him to be able to help me and be my father and be there for me, he wasn't. And that's when I had the twins, right? Because in my house growing up, when you turn 18, you leave. You're gone. You're out of here, right? And we've known that growing up, but when it happens, it's kind of like shocking. And then you have twins on your hip. You're like, oh shit, this is really shocking. And so for a good like a good amount of my early 20s, I was just so upset with him. Like, how could you? Like that was the time I really needed you, and how could you? And even when I had the twins, like the rule for him is like, we'll help you watch your kids only when your two work schedules overlap. Like it had to be that overlap. And then whatever the overlap is, well, you guys are going to be, getting off. You have 45 minutes to get here to pick up the kids. Oh, dad, I have to go to the store. Pick up the kids and go to the store. That's not my problem. He was really hard on me that way. Well, what's great about that is I hated that period, but that period was another set of building blocks that I needed to really have this stick to itiveness that I have. Like, stick to it. You're going to make it. Like, you can. And maybe that was his way of building confidence in me. I didn't feel that way as he was going, but looking back, I feel like he knew that I could do it. And he was probably also partially pissed off at me because I was supposed to go off in college and be this great thing. Right. And now I'm just this freaking another teen pregnancy. And so I know there was a lot of disappointment there. And so his reaction was to, like push me away. I mean, literally when I found out the day that I told him, his reaction was, from now on, you don't catch rides with your friends from school. You come straight home on the bus and you pull weeds for 3 hours. We have a 3 acre parcel. So you go pull weeds. And so for months, I'm like with my little water and a little stool and a little bucket. And I'm over there pregnant, pulling weeds. Like I'm going to be any less pregnant.
You're like, what? Like, how can you punish me like this?
Feel like I look back on it now, and this is a great thing. And I share this with a lot of people. There comes a time in your life, especially in your adult life, when you move from looking at your parents as your parents, like on this pedestal that you look up to just humans, to just like your fellow human beings. And the changing of that lens, it shifts everything, because now I'm like, I get why you did what you did. I understand. I don't agree, but I see now why that's all you knew. You were really doing the best with what you knew. And yeah, it was shitty, but but I can feel sorry for you. I mean, I can forgive you and understand that you weren't maliciously doing this to me. You were just doing what you knew was best. And that just allowed me to have this forgiveness that I didn't have before, which is what really kind of made me hard in my 20s and even early 30s. Because I didn't have that forgiveness. But as soon as I had that shift and seeing him like, oh, he was just doing the best he could, because as a parent, some things were happening with my kids. I'm like, I'm just doing the best that I could do. And I realized in that moment, shit, so was he. And so he is another key person that has affected my trajectory, because even though his tactics weren't the best, they really did build those blocks in me that have helped me to be utilized to build the success that I have. And I've just been able to take that and really synthesize it into something that's a lot more easily accepted, front facing from people. It's not like harsh, I feel like I've taken like my mom's super sweetness and my dad's hardness and like stick to itness. Like I've taken that and really created myself into something that really represents the both of them really well. So they were my parents were never like, hey, I'm going to teach you this lesson. We were also very latchkey kids. We were kind of left, to fend for ourselves, as most kids in the 80s and 90s were. But they were doing things, and those are the things that are sticking with me as an adult, right? So they weren't completely absent, but they were there enough for the lessons to take hold on my heart and now into my life. So
They say everything's happening for you, not to you.
Yes.
But in the moment, girl, you're like, why is this happening to me?
And I think grace is such a great thing to give yourself, because that's exactly how it plays out. Like, I know in general, life is happening for me. And when, things are good, but when things are not happy for me, I do have those little tantrum moments where I'm like, why is this happening to me? But I immediately followed up with like, okay, you had your moment. You are able to let that go and ask the question, but remember, get back to life is happening for you, and that really helps me to not hold on to it that long, and to kind of just let it go and really get down to the brass tacks and be like, okay, what's the problem? How do we solve it? Right. And that's really where what's the solution? I'm very solution based. And I know for a lot of people who I help, in a lot of ways, it's very good that I'm that way. but I understand and I know that it comes off very cold because I'm like, I don't care about your feelings. I care about what's the solution, you know? And I've gotten better at it. I know none of my people who I've worked with, like who's actually paid me to work with them, I don't do that to them. This is mostly my family I'm talking about, you know?
What advice would you give? Okay, so like what advice? Okay, so if someone's listening to this, let's talk to either the mother of a teenage person or the teenage girl. Like, what advice would you give to both of them? Like, what do you wish you had in that moment from your parent? Because maybe someone's listening to this and then they have a daughter who is a teen mom or a young mom, even 19, 20, or, like, what advice would you give her?
For sure, the one word that always comes to my mind is temporary. It's all temporary. I feel like when I'm so caught in the dark spots of, you know, being 21 and having four little kids under, on my hip with a 19-year-old boy who's still like, Capena's always been a hard worker. He's a hard worker, but just like figured it out. If someone whispered to me, Shan, this is all temporary, like I really felt like I could have just given myself that moment to take a breath, because like that holding your breath, that feeling of holding your breath, that's how I felt. I lived a good 15 years of my life, like that feeling, and I don't want that for anyone. So like if someone were to tell me, Shan, this is all temporary, like I get that it's this way right now, but it's gonna pass. I needed someone to tell me that, and I feel like that would allow me to take a breath and imagine what I would have done with some oxygen if I, right? And I imagine, because like, and I hate to do that because like I'll get down on myself and be like, man, if this person came into your life sooner, or if your parents had done this so much, but that's not how it played out. So I can't go back and change that. And so I don't go down that rabbit hole because it does become a rabbit hole. But speaking forward, I would remind them, like, it's all temporary. Like everything that is happening to you, good and bad. And that's another great lesson. When the things are good, that's also temporary. And not to say that it's going to turn bad, but just saying, like, don't expect it to stay the same the whole time. And I think that is a really, really great lesson to have, because, what we realize with ourselves is that we are just going on this tunnel that is our lives, and we stay on it. And, the things that we're raised with, the people that we interact with, our children, and all those things influence, our path and how we move through it. And when we are stuck holding our breath, we're not listening to anybody, because all we're just thinking is like, hold your breath so that you can stay alive. Like it's the survival mode. And I think that telling someone that it's temporary, that it can get better, and that this will pass, is what I needed to hear. What I would share with somebody is that, you think I'm great? I was like the worst teen, not the worst teen as in bad behaving. I was like, it was crazy because I was like good behavior on the outside, but like, doing things like having sex with boys in the background, So like good on the outside, but I was doing things in the background which I shouldn't haven't been doing. But the point I'm making is that what you are now is not going to define who you're going to become. You guys are seeing me as Shan now in like a really good time in my life, but it wasn't always this way. I was you. And I always say, like, if you could go back to a time when I would never go back to middle school for sure. Like that is one. I would go back to like little girl elementary days and maybe some of my high school, but middle school was just like the hardest time. It's like, there's so many things happening to a person's body with puberty and all these kind of things. And then you throw in how things are happening in your environment, your parents, religion, all those kind of things. Like I would never go back to that. And so what I want them to know is that who you are today is not who you will be in the future. Like you'll take you'll take pieces of her, maybe even, but you're going to grow into something else. And don't think that me being as great as you see me as today was exactly where I was when I was, 13, 15, 20, whatever. Like I was not that person. This took an evolution to happen. And I feel like that does kind of tie into the everything is temporary idea that I was talking about earlier, because what I want them to know is that like this is a journey. Like you have your JOB, the journey on becoming. Like you're just at your step at the journey, and it's going to continue. You'll continue taking steps and steps. And I would just say, be present in this moment for whatever it is that you're experiencing during this time.
Because this is just a chapter. It's a chapter of your book. This is
Chapter.
not your whole book. And it may seem like it's your whole book, but it is not.
Yes. And that right there, see me like it's your whole book. That is very, because they're less than 25. I think it's your prefrontal cortex that doesn't develop in your brain, which is the part of your brain that understands like consequence and all those kind of things. Like that's not developing your brain till you're like 24 to 26. So telling a teenager like it's not always going to be that way. They're kind of like, yeah, whatever, fuck you, because it's how it feels. And so I get it and I understand just the biology of it. But and I think that's why they need a little bit more reminders. I think that's why they need a little bit more support and a lot of space. That's what they need, because not space to freaking just go make any kind, but space to be who they are. And like, if I see something like I shared with you before, like when my daughters are filling out scholarships for college applications, the question was, do you identify with LGBTQ? And one of them checked off yes. And I was just like curious. And so I yelled from my room, hey, is this correct? Do you identify with LGBTQ? And she's like in her bed, she's like, oh yeah. I'm like, oh, what letter? She's like, oh, B. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, are you doing anything with that? She's like, no, I'm just curious. And like, I haven't done anything, but I'm not closed off to it. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, why? Is that a problem? I'm like, oh no, I just like, it's the first time I'm hearing about it. She's like, yeah, no, that's it. And that is the space that I allowed my daughters to have from when they were young. I would have never had that space growing up. I might have that curiosity, but no way am I like openly saying it to my parents. Oh my God. Right? Maybe to my friends, but even then not, because I didn't feel that safety to be who I was and openly who I was. And I wanted to, now that I'm saying this, I just wanted to look at it really quick because my daughter had sent me, was on my birthday a couple weeks ago, and it really speaks to this, and obviously it made me cry. But she was just saying how I just wanted to say, wait, let me see. Can I read a little bit of it?
Yes, please.
She was like, happy birthday. As I said in my previous message, whether it's because I don't want to do the math or because I just always envision you as eternally 40. She goes, it's weird seeing you to get older. I also want to say that my appreciation that you've given all of us girls a gift that every day I'm realizing more and more will follow us throughout our lives. And that's confidence. But honestly, confidence doesn't even scratch the surface of what it actually is, which is an innate knowing that we can do anything we put our minds to. It's not as fickle as mere faith. It's something that's ingrained in all of us. And I think that even if I don't do anything with my life, which I seriously doubt, because come on, look at me. This innate knowing that I can do anything impacts almost every aspect of my daily life. I never ask myself why I can't do something. It's always, how can I do something? Even in the mundane, this is the way of thinking that has provided me more dividends in my daily life and my interactions with others than it would have if I just accomplished anything big, which again, I'm still sure I will do. But I digress. I always wanted to say that I'm extremely proud of everything you've accomplished, and I'm constantly impressed by all of your ambition. Even if I don't do anything fucking insane or be famous, I'll always be happy to be known as Shan's daughter.
Oh,
But when she was talking about that confidence and how it was so innate in them, like that is that seed that I was talking about. And to know, like, and all my girls read this, they're like, yes, that. And to know that they all feel that, I'm like, shit, I can die and you guys are good. Obviously, I don't want to, but like that right there that is what I was hoping would happen in the way that I was raising my girls.
yeah.
Shit. I mean, they could really freaking be anything, but that space is really, really important. And it's hard as a parent to give space because you know that freaking teenagers are bonus. They're really going off of emotion. They're going off their friends. They're going on now their social media. There's so many layers of directions that they're following that they're all over the place. And so when they do things, it's very easy for us to react. And I talk about it in my book. And it's really this not the journey, but it's the power of underreaction. How do I underreact to things? And it's a concept, and I did it. I practice it. I talk about it. But that underreacting is what allowed them to have space, because I would have the major reaction internally, but my face, you would never know,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want them to, I knew that my reaction would make them feel a certain kind of way. And I didn't want them to feel that. I wanted them to just be and be who they are and grow
And
into,
give them the space. Give
and
them the space.
that
Yeah.
art, that's what it is. The art of underreaction was very, very, I feel was very important for them to get that confidence built so that they could be, and they could, figure things out for themselves and and be able to explore, but know that they were doing so within the safe zone, knowing that they had someone who could at any time come in and soup and help. But I was going to make them try to figure it out first before I soup
Mhm.
it and help. I'm going to make you try it 5 times before I try and soup it and help. Like, I'm really your last case scenario girl, but they knew that. So what it did was they like, I have to figure it out. And like that birthday text was super. All my girls wrote me nice ones, but the reason I read that one is because, we're speaking about confidence, and
Oh.
it
I
is.
think it's about giving them the space with love, like knowing that no matter what, I will always be here and I will always love you. Like I will never leave you. Like I don't care LGB, whatever you want to do, like whatever it is, like
Yeah.
I am giving you that space to be you
Yes.
and I will still love you. And I think that that's such great advice to give parents because I feel like there's this gap of like, there's our parents who
Mhm.
never talked about anything. Then there's us who is trying to like learn how to talk about stuff. And then there's our kids who talk about everything. So we're like, kind of like, what's happening here?
My book that I started writing, actually, I'm writing it. It's titled Generational Grace, and what that is,
Yes.
talking about how understanding the generations before you, for the younger people, and for the older people, understanding the generations who've become before you and the worlds that we're living, and how to interconnect with each other in a beautiful way, rather than like, those stupid kids, or oh my god, old people, like it. There is a way that you can appreciate every single generations for what they are, because they all do have their own special thing and way of thinking, really generationally. Like, someone says something, I was like, oh, that's a boomer. So, oh, that's a millennial. Like, I can, and this is what I'm saying in my head, but I can just hear it because that's the generation they grew up in, and that is what they know. So, like, I can't get mad at you for being born when you were born, and that's just how that works out. And so that's really what that book talks about, because I feel like there's so much, like, it's such a, we're the boomers, we're the millennials, we're Gen Z, and like it's so divided, and it doesn't need to be.
It's so cut off. Like,
It is.
this is us, not you. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I am not a fan of the me and them type of mentality. It's like us versus you.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
it's
not that.
we, girl. It's we.
Yeah, and what's funny is, like, I can't. Everybody hates watching football with me because, like, who are you going for? I'm like, who's losing? I'm always the dog. Like, so I don't have a team. I'm just always going for who is losing in that game, and it'll keep switching if the score changes. And they're like, you're the worst. I was like, you know what? Maybe I am, but this feels good to
Yeah.
me. I love seeing underdogs try to come back. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just the way that I approach things, and that feels good for me.
Yeah. And that's such great advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk. Okay. So you have a book that's already out, Evicted at 8. You have that one, and you're writing another book.
Yes, I actually have two other ones that I'm kind of writing simultaneously. I get ideas that I drop things into each of those files. But yeah, so Generational Grace is one where it's just kind of like helping the generations understand each other in a way that helps them all rise up. Because we all have something to give from our generation that is like, that gets missed because we're cutting ourselves. We keep ourselves divided. So that's what that talks about. But the other one is kind of a sequel to Evicted at 8, and I'm really trying to get. Maybe I need to ask ChatGPT, but but I need to. I'm trying to get like a really fun title for that, because Evicted at 8 is like getting my girls out. When they were 8 years old, I evicted them. Right, gave them a 10-year notice so that when they were 18, they were going to leave. But really, in that 10 years time, in that 10-year sentence that they were getting, I was super super duper 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 intentional with every single opportunity that came across us. Like, if something happened and there was a lesson, I would stop what I was doing to teach a lesson. And that was my way of making them feel at 18 properly ready to face the world. And they did. They all left. They went. One went to Philadelphia, one went to Paris. My third one actually stayed here, but she was working and doing her things. And the other one, my youngest, went to Paris as well. She came back in the pandemic as well. So I see them go off, and I wanted to do that. So this next book is really kind of talking about, like, did it work? Did the concept of kicking your kids out at 18, doing the things that I did it work? And it's kind of like a your lease is up, or something like that. I forget what the title. I have a bunch of titles for it. But it's basically saying, did it work? And like, I know it worked, but it's like, did the concept work? Kind of testing the theory. And then also, what were the new things that I learned from this? What did I learn from that? And now that my children are adults, oh my God, like to me, this is the best time because like your little kids are really a mirror of who you are. Like you get faced every single day with your toddler about all of your inadequacies because like they they point it out easily, right? And so like it kind of
easily in public and everywhere. Like they will call you out if you lie about something. It's like, oh my gosh.
love toddlers, but they were my toddlers. But I love toddlers for that reason. Like the purity of it all is like great. And of course, with my grandson, I look at that and I'm just like, I'm taking it all in. My daughter doesn't think it's great, but I of course, I do. I think it's cute. So
Yeah.
that, but then when they become adults, you get mirrored back even more because now they are synthesizing what they've learned in their life from you, what they've gone off into the world to learn for themselves, and they're coming back to you and said like, hey, you were wrong on this. Hey, you were spot on this. Like, hey, thanks for like all those things that come back as adults, like these type of messages that my daughter send me. Like those to me are just the validation that not only what I was hoping would work out did work out, but that yeah, I was spot on. I was on the money for what I felt would be a channel to raise these kids on that will help them be there because I've always known I don't drive this into them, but I've always known I was going to die. We all kind of know we're going to die. We don't know when, but it's like one of those guarantees. And so
and we talked about this before when me and you were talking about raise your kids to leave you, not to need you.
Yes, exactly. And I think I told you, I forget if it was like someone crazy, like a pop star, like Usher or someone like that. But he said something like, I'm not raising kids, I'm raising future adults. And when I heard that, like that also sat with me because it's true. I'm keeping kids alive, but the molding, the rearing that I'm doing, that and the lesson giving that I'm doing, that is the future adult stuff. And that is really the more important thing because we're really only kids for like, seriously, like less than 12 years of our average 80 plus lives, right? Exactly. That's like a small step of it. So why are we not giving more time to treating them like adults? And like one thing I talk about in my book is like I allowed my kids to swear, which was crazy to my family. Like they were just like, they were upset at us that we allowed it. But there was parameters to it. There was like, you can only do it in the house. You can't do it at each other. Like, you hurt your finger, like, ah, shit, like that kind of stuff. Like you're not going to get in trouble for that. Because what I knew as an adult was I do that. I swear, right? But as an adult, I know when to turn it off. I know where to use it. And I know like in what environment it's okay and what not. And that is the lesson that needs to be taught. Not don't do it, is learning how to do it. Like when to turn the switch on and off. Like I can speak very good English. Or I can speak super pocho. It's a switch, right? Like, I know who to switch it on and off with and where to do it, right? And it's the same.
Like it depends in my environment. Where am I at?
Feeling like that, right? And so like just with language and understanding that for my girls, having them know that like you have control over how to behave. And so it's not telling them not to have sex, not to swear. It's how do I do this? In the arena, how do I behave in the arena so that I keep myself safe, but I'm also not, like I'm being appropriate for where I'm being. You know what I'm saying? And so I could give them practice to do that in my own home. But I said, when you walk out that door, the rules apply. You're not swearing at your teachers. You're not swearing at your friends, or if you get called, if your teacher calls me and says that you said the F word and everything, like I'll let them go through their whole process, but you're not going to get punished at home because I know, like, unless you're swearing at the teacher and saying like, you're an F and B, that's not allowed. Right. But if you just said F because someone hit you or whatever, then, like you're not going to get in trouble for that. So like even having that and knowing that they could come home and know that they're not going to get in trouble for a slip of the tongue, like that's powerful, and I don't have kids who are walking around scared of life and what's going to happen to them. I have kids walking around who are just like open and taking everything in and exploring. And I think that's another great thing about space.
I love that. That's such great advice to give to parents.
And I would say this, I can give this advice now, but as I was doing it, I was freaking scared. I was anxiety ridden. It was like all of it. Like I don't know if this is going to work out, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to go. And my gut tells me this is right. And, like that whole time raising them, it really was like in my head that it was crazy like that. But now, I'm relaxed about it because like things have worked out, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying that like, I knew it in my gut and I carried it out, but I wasn't always this relaxed about sharing that kind of information because as I was going through it, it felt like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like that's what it felt like.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, girl. You don't know until you go through it. I don't think anybody ever knows anything what they're doing. Like for me, when I got pregnant for my son Elijah, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Starting a business, I did not know what I was doing. Like right now, starting this podcast, like I think you're going to be like episode number 8.
Uh-huh.
I'm still like learning the way, and I think everybody, everybody in life, I think they're just doing their best, and they are learning as they go and learning as they grow.
This is what I said, if I could have all the wealth in my world, I would like literally go to school. I would be in a constant mode of learning, whether I'm going to college to take a course, whether I'm going to learn
YouTube University.
Yeah, I am like a student at heart. I want to learn. I'm hungry for that. And that's also the curiosity in there, but there's just hunger for knowledge that I will always do. So because I have that hunger for myself, I really can appreciate like that idea that we are always learning, we're always evolving, because we should be. We really should be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. I loved all of it. I loved our conversation, Shan. Thank you so much.
You're
so
welcome.
If someone wants to find you, if they want to find your book, where is it at?
They can go to Amazon, and you can just go to just type in Evicted at 8. You can also find me on Instagram, Shan Otare. I also have, all my socials are at Shan Otare, ShanOtare. I didn't work. I am also working with clients here and there. I'm like Mapu. She has she's doing her 10 a year. I might be doing like 5, maybe 6 a year. I didn't retire just to create a freaking new job for myself. But, I'm great at helping people, and I happen to be really freaking good at it. And I enjoy it as well. Like all of that is definitely part of the wheelhouse that of who I am. And so, if you really want to fire, as I call it in my program, financial independence, retire early, just DM me on Instagram, the word fire, or just DM me, hey Shan, I heard you on Mapu. I want to talk story. I'm totally open to all of that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think it's so great. Like all of it is just great. Like just to learn from where you've been to where you are and how other people can do it,
Yes.
And that's the whole thing with this podcast that I wanted to do is I wanted to share people's stories as normal, everyday people and how they became who they are today. So that's the whole thing about the job journey on becoming.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I love that. And I really think that, especially in the way that I structure what I teach you, I'm not just teaching you how to build wealth. First, I'm teaching you to get to know you. Because a lot of things I do that. Well, let's find out why you do that. Oh, there's reasons, and once people start to get to know themselves, like a lot of things shift if they stop doing the BS and they start like getting down to it, and they start like really being able to follow the path that they need to, because they are familiar with who they are, as opposed to the person that they present to the world. And a lot of times that's a different person. So I think that's where it can be very helpful in that way, because I've done a lot of that work myself. And so very easy to teach other people to do it.
I'll share this story. I remember when you and I were working together, like, I don't know, like years ago. And you're like, okay, you need to like log everything. Like, what exactly are you spending and where you're spending it? I'm like, I don't know, Shan, like this money's coming in. I don't know how is all this money going out every month? And you're like, well, maybe you're spending it. So let's make a chart. So girl, I remember I did the chart, and I remember I had to write everything down that I was spending. And I had taken my kids to go eat pizza because we were running late. They were hungry. So I went to buy a pizza. Girl, the freaking pizza was $35. And I was like, what the hell? $35 for this damn pizza? It's like a pepperoni pizza.
Oh my God.
Yeah, basic, not even anything fancy. We get home, we didn't eat the whole pizza. We get home, I wrap up the pizza to put it in the fridge. And when I look in the freezer, I had 2 frozen pepperoni pizzas in there already. And I thought to myself, I could have just freaking saved this $35. But it's just the basic daily habits, that you do
and I
every single day. And
be like pissed, but then like that was also your eye opener. Like
it was.
Like this is why you have to write it down, because like you're so in your habits, you're so, and not that they're bad, but sometimes financially they're hurting you and you don't even realize. And you just need to learn how to build new habits. But it starts with recognizing the ones that you have first.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you want to be a millionaire, don't go buy $35 pizzas when you got a couple of them in your freezer. It's gonna take you 20 minutes to heat up. Okay.
Yeah. Wow, you never stopped by Costco. Isn't it like $9.99 for that?
The whole pizza. Yes.
They cook it for you, like that. To me, Costco still has the best, like it's the horrible food, but it is the best. I mean, it is the best deals if we're talking about
I love they
pizza.
got the best pizza, girl.
They really
Oh,
do.
and they got the warm cookie now. Have you tried their
Oh my,
cookie?
I won't say my keto doctor
Bomb.
here that I said this, but yes, I've tried it.
It's so good. It's so good.
Reminds me of back in Aloha Airlines days. At the ending of the flight, they used to, on the mainland flights, they would warm cookies, like chocolate chip cookies from Cookie Corner with milk, and they'd come through the
Oh,
aisle. But because I was working for the airline, I sat first class a lot because it was like open, and so that smell would come from the back of the plane and all the way. And like by the time they came up, I was ready for my cookie in my mouth. But it was like that's a very Aloha Airlines thing. But that cookie reminded me of that at Costco. So yes.
oh,
But
so
I
good.
thank you so much for giving me a moment, a space to share and to be able to talk story with you. And I'm so proud of this podcast that you're doing. And I think it's obviously going to help a lot of people, but really just introduce your audience to people that they may have never otherwise met and can really be in their circle, whether or not it's just through social media. It's awesome.
Thank you. I love it. And then for people wanting to follow you, if they want financial education and all that kind of stuff and how to get to where, is your website up? Is it shanotare.com? Or do they just go on social media?
Because we're doing things under construction. And like I was saying, when I started it right after I retired, I did like 2 rounds of classes. I got right into doing it. And I don't know why I did that because I didn't enjoy retirement. And so I stopped doing it. I stopped doing the academy. I was like, wait, let me enjoy being retired first, like not working. And now that a few, like 3 years have passed, I'm like ready to do that. And so like, again, that's why I'm really putting boundaries on like, okay, I'm going to just help 5 individuals. I'm not going to like do the whole course and everything. Like I'm going to use the same course, but I'm not going to do it in the way that I did because number one, I don't freaking need to, you know. But number 2, like I don't want it to feel like a job. I really want to feel like the people that I've mentored, who I've seen become millionaires and done that for themselves. Like that's what I want. I don't need to help thousands of people. If I can just help 1 or 2 or 3, but like really help them to where they're off and flying in a few years, I'd rather do that all day long.
I love it. Sign me up, girl. Sign me up.
Thanks, Mapu.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for being on the show.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed our time together, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your friends and family. It helps more than you know, and it allows me to bring even more amazing stories to your ears. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every share inspires another woman on her path to becoming her best self. I'll see you in the next episode.